people, good people, good people. Welcome to another edition of Commander's Wrap, where you get all your Commander's news and a little opinion too in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Dr. Wonderful, Doctor of Writing, Professor of English, and avid Commanders fan, joined here by my co host, Kevin Bayne. We air every Sunday at 9 a.m. and replay at 10 a.m. on Spotify and Audible. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good. This is our first instant react game right, instant react show right after a game. We've never done this before, right? So this is
Yeah.
this is our first time. So we're going to go in reverse, you all. We're going to talk about this game that we just lost again against Philly. We're going to talk who just owns us. Philly just owns us, let's be honest. We'll talk about the Giants game, which we won
Yep.
because the Giants are a special kind of bad and we now own them. And then we'll talk about some other things that broke. But Kevin, let's talk this game because it's instant react. We weren't able to be on the air last week, so we are going to have a longer show, and it matters because hey, division rival. So we're going to talk freely. Kevin, what what would this get? What we talked a little bit pregame. What with this game, Kevin? We can still run the ball. Yay!
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but Kevin and Tressway can still punt the ball.
Yes.
Yay! Right?
Yeah.
what?
Get. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give us your thoughts, Kevin, and then I'll say things.
I'm just gonna take a deep breath. This is how the season's been going. I actually felt like they started playing out pretty well. Defense was seemed to be playing well there for a while. Um, and then it was just like the penalties were killing us. I will say I think a couple of them were a little, little phantom calls there. What are you going to do though? That's what happens. But yeah, a lot of them they were penalties. Crucial third downs. Even fourth down. Uh, shooting ourselves in the foot. That's what it was a lot of. And then of course it doesn't help when you turn the ball over. Interception there killed us. Um, yeah, though, running game looked good. Like, as you just said, we're still able to run the football. Um, that is good. They were doing a good job with the defense was doing a good job with Saquon there to the very end, towards the end of the game. I think they were even say it was the middle of the third quarter, and I think he was only about 50 something yards. 13 carries, 55 yards, or something like that, which was pretty good. Maybe spoke too soon on that one. Wagner seemed to be all over the place. Seemed like he was having a pretty good game. He definitely stood out to me. What else? Jalen Lane made me a little nervous there on that return. Didn't call for a fair catch, and luckily he didn't get hurt on that one. But yeah, we're still a mess, right? Still having trouble passing the football, and moving the football down the field. Same old, really.
I just think that, well, I will say this. I'm not sure if it's the same old Kevin, right? Because I know it's hard to see things when you have losses this bad, right? But I want to focus on a couple things. The first drive after we recovered the fumble. Shout out to Mikey Sainer still. I don't know what more Mikey has to prove that he probably needs to be your outside corner. This is the
Yes.
only guy who's around the ball. Although I will say this, Quan Martin has had a couple of interceptions taken away from him because of a penalty.
That's true.
Like that's just true. Like
That's
he's had,
a great
he's like,
observation.
yeah, he's had like two or three interceptions taken away from
Yep.
him simply due to penalties that were not his fault. So I also want to give a shout out to Quan Martin for being in the right place and making the right and doing that because
Yep.
I know that he's been dogged on.
Yep.
You know, but if we go back to that first drive, there were some things that I questioned. Okay. And like I said, I'm an 80s baby. So maybe there's a part of me that is a little too old school for this. Right. But maybe there's a part of me that's like, well, I understand how football was meant to be done. That's like this. You are third and first and whatever from the 3 yard line to 2 yard line, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot run the ball into the end zone from 2 and 3 yards out, I'm not sure you belong in the NFL.
I have to completely agree with you.
I cannot stand passing from 5 yards out. I hate it.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I think it was against was the Vikings who they just played not a couple games back, and it was I was listening to B Mitch and JP, and they were talking about how it was on the goal line, right, and you get 1st and 4 from the goal, you run it and it becomes 2nd and 1 from the goal, and then you call not one, not two, but 3 straight pass plays, and it was just insane, right? And I think one of them Debo should have probably caught the ball, but he didn't. But you got to run the ball. So I'm with
Yeah,
you. I'm with you.
yeah. It just doesn't. I just don't. And usually from that, there are very few pass plays that I like from that.
Yep. Yep.
Low, but one of them that I do like if you're running the ball well is the bootleg tight end out.
Mm-hmm.
Many moons ago, we ran that when we had Chris Cooley and
Cooley.
Alfred
Yep.
Morris.
Sure
And
did.
it was money
Yep.
because of Alfred Morris
Yep.
and the naked bootleg
Yep.
tight end out.
And
Right,
they even ran it
right.
with Jordan Reed a little bit there too. Sure did.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
But it happens because you're running.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
granted, I understand Zach Ertz was out. Senate, you might still be unsure of,
Yeah.
but I hone in on that first down play because I think it's a microcosm of what's been wrong with Washington's offense, no matter
Mm-hmm.
who's been in at quarterback.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury last year was really, really good at knowing when to call the plays and what plays to call. Run pass, don't care. He knew what to call and when to call it.
Mm-hmm.
This year has been different. That is a credit to opposing NFL teams and defensive coordinators because that's their job, right? Is
Yeah.
to make this hard. But I do feel as though, and there are times where Cliff thinks he's smarter than the game.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's still just a game of math. Every play has been drawn up before. Like there are very few truly new plays. I've never seen that in my entire life.
Yep.
NFL.
Yeah.
Like it's just very there. I mean, there are certain plays that NFL players might not have seen in forever, like the Statue of Liberty play.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Yep.
right. Like,
Yep.
oh, the hide the football play.
Yep.
Right. But there are very few plays that you're just gonna like make up. There are very few that other people can't figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yep.
And so my question for Cliff is you didn't seem to adjust to how they adjusted to you. So what will you do in this third year should Washington keep you? Um, as for defense, I'm not convinced that Dan needs to keep this. I'm just convinced that they need to send this to somebody else.
Mhm.
And they need that somebody else to be good enough to know what kind of players he needs.
Yes. Yes.
You know, because
Yes.
we could have a high roster turnover again. We could have a 60% roster turnover. Don't think that that's twisted. We've still got over $100 million to spend. Washington could have a very high turnover on the roster again.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we will. I think we
I
will.
absolutely think we will.
Yeah.
And so there are some people who are playing to stay on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll definitely have to see. But David, I do want to. I mean, excuse me. Well, I'm so sorry, Kevin.
You're
I have
good.
someone else over. Kevin, I do very very briefly want to. Well, not even briefly. I want to switch to last week's game because it'll put us in a better mood,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, maybe.
Because right. Well, the Giants are a special kind of
Oh,
bad.
God.
Yeah, we are also bad. We are also very, very bad. When what you have to hang your hat on is that you beat the other bad team in your division 2 times, you know that's not nothing to hang your hat on.
Yeah. Right.
But not really. But we did win last week, and Because once again, we had these struggles this week. It's been very inconsistent no matter what you say. We've been an up and down team even before the injury started, right?
Yeah,
Talk to me about the Giants game, what you saw, specifically what you saw from the Giants game that good or bad, that you saw replicated in this game tonight, right?
yeah.
And what do you think we could bring forward, the good stuff, and what are you like, this has got to stop. No matter what, in 2026 we can't see it.
Yeah. You know, look, a win is a win, right? Yeah, I think what they said was that first win in over 2 months.
Right, right,
We ended an 8 game losing streak.
right.
Um,
Yes.
was it a sloppy win? Absolutely, it was. But a W is a W. Um, we might have tried to do just about everything there towards the end to give that game away. The offense had 4 fumbles, just absolutely insane. However, with that being said, so I'll get the special teams right. Jalen Lane tied a franchise record with 2 punt return touchdowns in the season.
Yeah.
That's pretty huge right there. Hats off to him for that. I think there was definitely some defensive improvement in errors. The defense stepped up, but they still allowed some big plays. Needing to eliminate penalties and miscommunication as they head into these matchups. It was just, look, they were playing good, and then it's like all of a sudden they're playing bad and they're playing good again, and then down the stretch it's like they're fumbling the football, and it's like, guys, what are you guys doing? It was pretty frustrating to see, actually, and I'm trying to be positive as I can, even though you know we did get the win, which is great, but I'm always going to call it like it is, and yeah, I just was not impressed by it at all. I know Mariota, he played a pretty good game overall. Uh, but it's just, I don't know, man. It just seems like we're a team that knows where we want to be, but we just can't get there. And I don't like to use injuries as an excuse at any time because every team deals with injuries. I get that. However, some teams get that injury bug a little worse than other teams. And I believe we fall into that category this year. And that's what it is. My question is, should we have won that game? Like, is it good for us to win that game? How we won it? I don't know, because then you get into the draft position, right? Um, should there be certain people playing that maybe shouldn't be playing? And just, I don't know. Again, I'll just leave it at that. I was pretty frustrated, even though we got the win. I'm ready for the season to be done with, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about draft position and should we have won. Listen, unless this is the NBA, and I'm also an avid fan of the Wizards, so our listeners are going to understand what I'm saying. Unless this is the NBA, I just do not agree with this whole the tanking thing for a draft pick. Not in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I'm
Like
not saying no. I
it's
didn't mean
yeah.
and I don't mean
Well,
tank
I get
like
what you're saying, yeah.
yeah,
But for me, yes, we needed to win. Here's the thing. Kevin, before we won against the Giants last week, we thought that Washington could very well lose out. And while we were under the assumption that Dan Quinn would return, it would be exceedingly hard to lose 12 games in a row and keep your job.
yeah, yeah.
It
It's
would
true.
have been unprecedented. So for me, Washington showing that they want to win, that they need to win, that this is more about what this is about in the end, which is about winning.
Yeah,
Because in the NFL, it's about winning. So much can happen with trades and this, and there are so many NFL draft busts you can hit or you get what I'm saying. But
yeah. I do. I
but
do.
but like this is about something. I think winning more is at the core and the heart. Like I'm not saying that NBA players in any way, shape, or form want to lose,
Yeah,
but the tank has been a strategy ever since the NBA decided that the number one pick should just go to
yeah.
the first team,
Right,
whatever,
right.
right? Like that's
Yeah,
just been a strategy. The NFL is not like that. Yeah,
yeah,
and it doesn't work like that when you have like 90 players on your roster, then you got to trim it to 55. Like, come on.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
NBA
yeah.
depends on like 11 people.
Yep, yep.
And so I hear you and I'm with that, but I think winning matters more to a team than necessarily draft picks
Yeah.
or high draft picks. I
And see,
understand
yeah,
what
and I'm
fans are
normally,
saying.
yeah,
We're going to have a top 10 pick anyway. I mean, I
yes,
don't think we're going
yes.
to win these next two games. We're
No,
going to
we're
have a
not.
top 10 pick. This was
Yeah,
about, can you please beat this one team that I think that you can kind of beat because somehow
I
they're
hear you.
somehow worse than us? Like it was like that.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Like, look,
Yeah,
the
no, I
Eagles
got
are
you.
better
Yeah,
than us. Dallas is better than us. I hate to say that, right? They're just better than us right now. And yeah, I needed us to beat a team that we seem to be slightly better than,
yeah, yeah.
you
I hear you.
know.
I hear you.
But at the same time, I hear you. But to me, draft picks, draft orders, none of that matters if you
Yes,
don't get the pick right.
right. I think
Right.
that's very true.
Right. So we have to look at Adam Peters as well. As I said, the third year, critical, crucial year for all parties involved.
Mhm.
All parties involved. I think that Josh Harris is a patient man. I also think that Josh Harris loves this team and needs it to be relevant.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how long that patience for the team you love versus the patience you had for the Philadelphia 76ers,
Hmm.
right, is different. Josh Harris loves this team. He grew up with this team.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering the leashes. That's
Hmm.
all I'm saying. I don't think we should think that there are going to be leashes as long as what's in Philadelphia. But I also don't think that Josh Harris rushes to judgment. I think that if Dan Quinn had another historically bad year, right,
Hmm.
that he could be let go. But that would not
Yeah,
necessarily mean Adam Peters would be let go.
I concur. I do.
But we will have to see because I don't wish that on Dan Quinn because that's wishing for my team to be bad. And I will never wish for my team to be bad. That's why I root for every single coach who comes in here to be wildly successful. But when you look at this franchise, if we didn't have Joe Gibbs,
Oh
we
boy.
would always be like sucky ducky.
Oh boy.
I mean, I love what good old George Allen did. He never had a losing record, but we didn't win anything.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we got yeah, we'll shoot it straight, right? Like, yeah,
Right, right. Like we didn't win. He never had a losing record, but we didn't win a single thing. And then came Joe Gibbs, and we had a decade of glory.
yep,
But if you look at this franchise as a whole over its history, we're one of those historically never been goods. And then we had a run,
yep, yep, yep.
and we need another decade run, like the Kansas City Chiefs.
I
I would say
completely agree.
yes. But let's go ahead and shift to injuries. More injuries happened tonight. Cosme seemed to have gone down. Sam Cosme, and he just came back, and I was just gutted. I don't know what that is. Marcus Mariota went down. Oh my God! I don't want to have to. If we have to go with Josh Johnson, oh,
Yeah,
against I don't know what I'm gonna do. Right, Marcus Mariota, he went down. There were more things. So as we said, injuries have plagued the Commanders this season, and it was an injury-filled season for Jayden. And there had been some debate on if he should have been shut down early in the season. But this past Monday, the Ian Rappaport first reported, and the Commanders confirmed that Jayden Daniels would be shut down for the rest of the season. And I think, Kevin, that as long as Washington was actually in the playoff hunt, which was really 2 weeks up until 2 weeks ago against the Minnesota Vikings, um, DQ was going to have Jaden play
Uh-huh.
if he was cleared to play.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for that reason. This is a performance-based occupation.
Yeah.
However, there are some questions now, mostly from fans, about who really made the call
Yeah.
to shut Jayden down. We know Jaden's not happy about it,
Yeah.
right? And I
Hmm.
would expect he would be.
Yeah.
But people are wondering if it was a mutual team decision or if it was as mutual as the team is trying to make it. Cliff didn't seem particularly thrilled with the decision either.
Yeah.
But all of feelings aside, what do you think of this move for this season with 2 games remaining now? And what do you think of this move for the future of our franchise?
So I see both sides. Why they should and maybe shouldn't have played them. I'll first start off and say that there's, just like you mentioned, there's no question that Jayden wanted to play. Honestly, it would be a red flag for me if he was just okay with it, right? Like, Jayden has that mentality of, hey, I'm medically cleared. I need to be playing. He wants to play, regardless if they're mathematically eliminated from the postseason or not. Without a doubt, he has the right attitude. But yeah, this is one of those situations where I think both things can be true at the same time. Um, I do think the decision was presented as mutual, but I think if I'm being honest, in my opinion, this ultimately came from the organization. I think Jayden wants to play. That's who he is. Cliff wants his quarterback on the field. That's who he is. I think the call could have came from Harris, Adam Peters. Maybe obviously Quinn was consulted. Maybe he was in agreement. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me though if it came from up top. Again, that's just my opinion. You're talking about the franchise quarterback. This is the face of the rebuild. Coming off a season where he's taken a lot of hits this year. He's played through multiple injuries, and the team realistically is not going anywhere this year. So at some point, I think protecting the long-term investment has to outweigh the short-term competitiveness, even if that means you're not able to finish the season on a strong note like you wanted to, or maybe the locker room and some fans don't love it. In my opinion, it's what's best. I think the same should be done with a few other players. Um, I don't buy that argument that they should have shut Jayden down earlier, though. As long as they were mathematically still alive in the playoff hunt and the medical staff cleared him, he should have played. I think Dan Quinn, he's always going to play his quarterback. That's not recklessness to me. That's called coaching. Um,
Yeah.
I do think the team deserves. Look, the team might deserve a little scrutiny how Jayden was used earlier in the
Hmm.
season. Some of the design runs, I think, some of the exposure to some of these unnecessary hits, it all adds up, and we're probably seeing the consequences of that now. At the end of the day, though, what I think fans need to hear the most is this isn't about giving up. It's about protecting the most important piece of the rebuild. And at this point, I'd like to see a bit more of the younger guys get some action, possibly make some room for someone that looks promising on the practice squad, come up and get some snaps. That's where I'm at with it anyway, though.
Yeah, and I agree with you too, because again, I'm going to say this. The third year is a crucial year because when the third year ends, Washington Brass will make a decision about whether or not they're going to pick up Jayden Daniels' 5th year option.
Yes. Yes.
They will make that decision after the third year. The third year is a crucial year. Them wanting him to be healthy is as much as about him as it is about being a shrewd business move
Yeah.
because Adam Peters will not hesitate not to give him a 5th year option if he doesn't perform well enough
Yeah.
in the third. I just think that we need to understand that broadly. I'm not saying that he's thinking that, but he should be because he's the general manager.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, he better be thinking that.
Yeah.
Well, I need Jayden to have a good third year because otherwise, I'm going to be forced into a decision that none of us are gonna like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
and
with you.
so That's my position on that as is shrewd if we're thinking 4 or 5 year plan.
Yep.
Right. And we have seen organizations decide they're not going to pick up the 5th year option. Washington did it twice. They did it with Deron Payne, right? They didn't pick up his 5th year option the first time. And they did it with, what was it, Jamin Davis, or they did it with somebody else.
Okay. Okay.
They didn't pick up their 5th year option.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of I think it was John Davis. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So they may not pick up the 5th year. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that's why year three is important, and why I think shutting him down was important. It's a performance based a sport. They're not going anywhere. He's not medically cleared. Hey, I'm a fan. I want to see him play too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for good or for, I just want to see him play because he is electrifying. But not if we're going to have a repeat of 2012. I don't,
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
you know.
Yep.
So, Kevin, we're going to get to our very last segment. And the good thing is, we're going to discuss Bill Merritt. He kind of had an okay game tonight, but in combination with Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols, again, running game was very solid tonight. But Bill Merritt, last week, he won the Pepsi Zero Sugar Rookie of the Week award,
Yep.
right? For his efforts in the win over the New York Giants, getting 95 yards and a touchdown. It's no secret that fans have loved Bill since training camp. However, some fans want to know why he isn't getting more opportunities to be the three down back.
Uh-huh.
And Kingsbury, in his press conferences, noted that Bill's biggest hurdle right now is continuing to develop as a pass protector. And I wonder if he also needs to develop as a route runner and a pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Not from anything that Cliff has said,
Yeah.
but just in general. Seventh round running back, a lot of raw potential, raw skills. It's the end of the season, like we said, but after watching Bill this year, what have you seen from him, and what do you need to see from him to take the next step?
Yeah, so I don't think fans are not wrong to be excited about Bill, right? I think we all kind of were. Just through training camp. Just the Giants game he just played was a great game. I think really what's jumped out for me with him is his decisiveness. He's got great contact balance. He hits that hole with urgency. I've seen him finish runs. He doesn't waste no movement. He doesn't stutter step. He gets to it. And that's why I think you see flashes from him even on limited touches. I know, where Kingsbury's comment about pass protection, what really matters is this, and I think it boils down to trust. To become that three down back, especially in this offense, Cliff and Quinn, they have to trust you. Have to trust you on a 3rd and 6 with the game on the line. Bill has improved, but his tape it still shows. He's got late recognition on blitz pickup, occasional poor leverage, ducking or throwing a shoulder instead of just squaring up. His inconsistent ability to anchor versus bigger linebackers. That alone can keep a back off the field, no matter how good he is as a runner. As for route running and pass catching, I do think that's the next layer for him. He hasn't been bad as a receiver, but I think he's just been kind of basic average too. It's mostly checkdowns and swings. It's not consistently threatening linebackers in space. Again, to be that true three down guy, he needs to show that he can win a route, not just catch a ball when he's uncovered. You got to think angle routes, option routes. Turning a 4-yard catch into 12. That's where guys like Eckler, when healthy, or top tier three down backs separate themselves. What I need to see, what I need to see more from Bill, I guess, to take that next step. He's got to be cleaner, more decisive pass protection reps, uh, comfort running routes beyond the flat. Uh, Showing the staff that he can be left in without protection help. If he checks those boxes, his running ability already warrants more snaps. I think he'll be okay. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got work. He's got some work to do,
Mm-hmm.
as he should.
Yep.
right? Seventh round rookie. He's got some work to do, but certainly the potential for Bill is there. I will say this from the beginning that I just prefer Chris Rodriguez as a RB1.
Yep.
I just think when you see him, see how he squares his shoulders, he just has all the RB1 in him, but people like a Bill Merritt are needed, and he could be lightning.
Yeah.
So just because I'm saying that someone like Rodriguez, I prefer to see in that three down back role. I mean, Bill Merritt is electric and electrifying, and you always find a way to get electrifying players on the field. So I don't. He would not lose anything being the number two,
Yep.
um, in my opinion. Last thing we're going to talk about, Kevin, before we end the show is this Brandon Coleman saga that we've got going on. Now, initially, he was benched for Chris Paul. We didn't know what was going on or why, and it had nothing supposedly to do with like illness or anything like that. But it came out much late. I will say Linnell Willings was the first. Williams, excuse me, was the first to report this on 106.7 The Fan, when he had mentioned that Brandon Coleman had a lingering issue that coaches felt affected his play strength.
Mhm.
And this is how Chris Paul wound up taking over the job. And then he never really relinquished that job.
Yep.
And so going into camp 2026, Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul, should Chris Paul be resigned, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be, would be an early thing to watch in camp. But I've just got to ask broadly, Brandon Coleman, uh, when we got him, we drafted him to be the tackle, although NFL scouts had projected him to be best suited as a guard.
Uh-huh.
Coleman did okay as a tackle. He's quite athletic. But when they got Laramie Tunzel, the writing was on the wall, right? And we're like, okay, well, Coleman's going to be inside and your starting is going to be dot, dot, dot. And then we had these like new and other types of development. So, what's going on, Kevin, with Brandon Coleman? What are we as fans to think about him?
Yeah. So, just like I said, the lingering issue. I think the explanation it actually lines up pretty cleanly with what we saw on tape. I went back and watched tape myself on him. And look, he was never disastrous. You could tell though he was noticeably kind of diminished. As you just noticed, I was getting ready to say the same thing. I had less burst and play strength, kind of more hesitation at the point of attack. Uh, Losing reps he'd previously been able to survive. When that happens, coaches are kind of faced with a choice. You keep playing the guy with the higher draft pedigree, but compromise performance, or do you play the healthier player who can execute the assignment cleanly? Once CP stepped in and showed baseline competence and availability, the staff made a pragmatic call and they stuck with it. This wasn't a punitive benching; it was more, of a health trust reset. Um, you know, uh, Brandon, he wasn't benched because he's not good enough. He was benched because he wasn't right in the margin for error shrinks late in the season. And when you're not playing, you're not 100% healthy, and you're trying to get through those injuries, and it can have an effect on your play. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with I can tell you, Kevin, when I heard this, I was happy to hear this. I know Brandon Coleman has faced some injuries, but I was concerned that it was some type of disciplinary issue, like showing up to team meetings late, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
just not giving your all, which says something about the character of the person and not. It's more like, okay, there was an injury holding him back. Now, we don't need this to happen to him again. We've
Yeah.
seen injuries ruin great careers both here in Washington
Yeah.
and in other places. So certainly we do not want that for Brandon Coleman. I mean, the guy's only 20 something. He's a very young man,
Yeah.
but it's a very young man. So we certainly want Brandon Coleman to be healthy. I'm just
Yes.
saying, I was worried that it was something else. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Chris Paul, you trying to tell me like there was so much about it I couldn't believe
Yeah.
that yeah, I'm real happy that it was a injury, but he has to my hope is that Brandon Coleman will like focus and maybe find out if there's somebody else that he can go to that to help him stay healthy. Off season they get all these kind of trainers and people like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's somebody who can help him rethink how he takes care of. I don't know anything about sports medicine. I don't know anything about injuries or this, that, and the other. But you're
Yeah.
young in your career and you don't want to be considered one of those guys.
Yeah. No, and
Right,
he's right.
right,
Yep.
right. Like that's not what you want. So,
Yeah.
hopefully, there's something there for there. But we're always rooting for Brandon Coleman because as always, we're Commanders fans. So we root
Yeah.
for everybody
Yeah.
on this team. Whether we critique them or not, what must be understood is we want this team to win no matter what.
Yeah.
Like no matter what. The Commanders must win, and anything that impedes the Commanders from winning has got to be dealt with, if not completely removed. So, two more games left, fans. And Kevin and I are going to be here with you through these last two games. Once the season is over, we'll give you some programming notes. But for now, hold on. Two more games to go. We can get through this. We can get through this. For Kevin Bayne, I'm Dr. Wonderful, Doctor of Writing, Professor of English, and avid Commanders fan. And this has been your weekly edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your Commanders news and a little bit of opinion too in 15 minutes, or probably be a bit longer as we were making up a couple episodes with this one. Thanks as always, everyone. Bye bye.